In the podcast, Ben Shapiro discusses the recent decision by the Supreme Court of Colorado to remove President Donald Trump from the state ballot for both the primaries and the general election. The court cited Amendment 14, Section 3 of the Constitution of the United States, which states that no person who has engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the United States shall hold any office, civil or military, under the United States. The court argued that Trump's actions leading up to and on January 6th constituted an insurrection, and therefore he should be barred from the ballot. The podcast delves into the legal and historical context of Amendment 14, Section 3, arguing that it was originally intended to prohibit those who had served in the Confederacy from holding public office in the United States. The podcast also highlights the lack of clarity in the amendment regarding its application to future insurrections and presidential candidates. The podcast discusses the potential implications of the Colorado Supreme Court's decision, emphasizing the unprecedented nature of using lawfare against a sitting president. It raises concerns about the impact on electoral integrity and the potential for widespread unrest and violence in the event of a contested election. The podcast also addresses the reactions of various political figures to the court's decision. President Trump and his supporters view the decision as an attack on democracy and a means to prevent him from running for office. On the other hand, Democrats and some legal experts defend the decision as a necessary measure to prevent a perceived threat to democracy. The podcast highlights the potential consequences of the court's decision, including the likelihood of Trump's re-election in the primaries due to the backlash against the attacks on him. It also discusses the broader implications for the political landscape and the potential for further polarization and unrest. In addition, the podcast touches on related issues such as the ongoing criminal cases against Trump and the use of legal tactics to undermine his candidacy. It also addresses the role of the media in shaping public perception and exacerbating political tensions. Shapiro continues by addressing the ongoing crisis at the border, criticizing the administration for its handling of the situation. He highlights the refusal of the administration to sign into law border provisions that would solidify the border, and the blame game between the White House and Republicans over the issue. He also discusses the tragic death of a 5-year-old migrant in Chicago and the blame placed on Texas Governor Greg Abbott for sending the child to Chicago. Shapiro points out the hypocrisy in the language used by Democrats and Republicans regarding immigration, emphasizing the need for a more balanced and nuanced approach to the issue. Shapiro then shifts his focus to the Middle East, specifically the crisis in shipping lanes due to attacks by the Houthi militant group. He highlights the potential impact of these attacks on global trade and the response from the United States and its allies. Shapiro expresses concern over the West's response to the attacks and the implications for future conflicts in the region, particularly with China. The discussion then turns to the controversy surrounding the removal of Confederate monuments and the issue of slavery reparations. Shapiro criticizes the push to remove these monuments, arguing that they serve as a reminder of the country's history and the need for reconciliation after the Civil War. He also questions the feasibility and implications of slavery reparations, emphasizing the need for a more thoughtful and practical approach to addressing historical injustices. Shapiro delves into the recent developments within the Catholic Church regarding blessings for same-sex couples. He discusses the controversy surrounding the issue and the implications of a Jesuit priest, Reverend James Martin, giving a blessing to a same-sex couple. Shapiro questions the Church's stance on the matter and the potential impact of such actions on the Church's teachings and traditions. The podcast concludes with a discussion of Democratic Senator John Fetterman's evolving views on immigration and foreign policy. Shapiro highlights Fetterman's shift towards a more moderate stance, particularly in his criticism of the open immigration policy at the southern border, and his condemnation of Hamas's actions in the Middle East. Shapiro expresses surprise at Fetterman's changing views and the potential implications for the Democratic Party.